In an era before rockets truly left Earth, Buck Rogers was already saving humanity across the stars. But a century later, is this pioneering space hero now truly free for everyone? Before Star Wars, before Star Trek, there was Buck Rogers. He wasn't just a character, he was a phenomenon that launched an entire genre into the public consciousness. For nearly a century, Buck Rogers has defined what it means to be a space adventurer, battling alien foes and exploring the cosmos. From comic strips to radio dramas, film serials to television shows, his adventures have captivated generations, shaping our collective imagination of the future. But with such a long and storied history, a crucial question arises. Is Buck Rogers, the original space hero, finally in the public domain? The answer is both simple and surprisingly complex. Understanding the public domain status of a character like Buck Rogers isn't merely a legal curiosity, it's a gateway to boundless creative possibilities. When a work enters the public domain, it becomes freely available for anyone to use, adapt, or build upon without seeking permission or paying royalties. This means new stories, films, games, or even merchandise can be created, breathing fresh life into beloved characters for a new era. For a figure as foundational as Buck Rogers, this transition could spark a renaissance, allowing creators to explore his universe in unprecedented ways. So, let's embark on our own adventure through time to uncover the truth about Buck Rogers and the future of his legacy. Our journey begins not with Buck Rogers, but with Anthony Rogers, the creation of a visionary writer named Philip Francis Nowlan. Nowlan, an American science fiction author, first conceived of a distant future where humanity faced incredible challenges. His fascination with technological advancements and the potential for epic conflict led him to craft a narrative that would utterly revolutionize speculative fiction. Nowlan's work was steeped in the scientific understanding of his time, yet he possessed an uncanny ability to project those ideas centuries forward, creating a believable and thrilling future world that would soon captivate readers across the nation. Nowlan's seminal work, Armageddon 2419 AD, first appeared in the August 1928 issue of Amazing Stories, one of the earliest and most influential science fiction pulp magazines. Edited by Hugo Gernsback, Amazing Stories was a crucible for new ideas, and Nowlan's novella was a standout. The story introduced readers to Anthony Rogers, an American soldier who, after being exposed to radioactive gas in an abandoned mine, falls into a state of suspended animation. He awakens nearly 500 years later, in the year 2419, to find a drastically altered Earth, ruled by an oppressive alien race known as the Han. This foundational text laid the groundwork for all future space adventures. Anthony Rogers' awakening into the 25th century was a rude one. He found a fractured United States, its populace living underground, subservient to the technologically superior Han, who controlled the skies with their mighty airships. The narrative followed Rogers as he quickly adapted to this new reality, using his 20th century ingenuity and fighting prowess to aid the beleaguered American resistance. He learns to fly their futuristic anti-gravity devices and wield their atomic pistols, becoming a crucial figure in the fight for liberation. It was a classic man-out-of-time narrative, imbued with elements of patriotic struggle and thrilling futuristic warfare. The transformative potential of Nowlan's stories was quickly recognized by John F. Dilley, president of the National Newspaper Syndicate. Dilley envisioned adapting Anthony Rogers into a syndicated comic strip, believing its blend of adventure and futurism would appeal to a wide audience. To bring this vision to life, Dilley enlisted the talents of artist Richard Dick Calkins. Calkins, a former fighter pilot and a gifted illustrator, was tasked with visualizing Nowlan's world for the daily newspapers. His artistic interpretation would be crucial in shaping the iconic look and feel of what would soon become a household name. Before the comic strip could launch, a pivotal change was made. Anthony Rogers was deemed too formal, too academic for a popular adventure strip. John Dill, seeking a more accessible, all-American hero, rebranded him Buck Rogers. This simple name change instantly imbued the character with a sense of rugged individualism and daring-do,
perfectly aligning with the spirit of the pulp era. It was a marketing masterstroke that made the hero relatable and memorable, cementing his identity as an everyman who could conquer the future's greatest challenges. This Buck was ready for stardom.
On January 7, 1929, the world was introduced to Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, a daily comic strip syndicated nationwide. Penned by Nowlan and visually brought to life by Calkins, the strip quickly became an unprecedented success. Readers were enthralled by the continuing saga of Buck, his brave companion Wilma Deering, and the brilliant Dr. Huer, as they fought against the tyranny of the Han and explored the wonders and dangers of their futuristic world. The comic strip's serialized nature meant that daily readers were constantly left on the edge of their seats, eager for the next installment of Buck's thrilling adventures. While the comic strip was already captivating daily readers, Philip Nowlan expanded upon Anthony Rogers' original story in print. The second novella, The Air Lords of Han, was published in the March 1929 issue of Amazing Stories. This sequel continued Rogers' fight against the oppressive Han, delving deeper into their society and military strategies, and showcasing more of Nowlan's inventive futuristic technology. This novella further enriched the lore of the 25th century, solidifying the universe that the comic strip would continue to explore and expand upon. Both the strip and the printed stories worked in tandem to build a formidable new sci-fi world. Dick Calkins' artwork for the Buck Rogers comic strip was revolutionary. He provided readers with their first visual language for space adventure, depicting sleek rocket ships, gleaming ray guns, and daring space helmets long before such concepts were commonplace. The strip's visuals defined the aesthetic of early science fiction, influencing generations of artists and storytellers. From the intricate designs of alien cities to the dynamic action sequences in deep space, Buck Rogers offered a thrilling glimpse into a technologically advanced future, establishing many of the visual tropes that would become staples of the science fiction genre for decades to come. Buck Rogers wasn't just a comic strip, he was a cultural phenomenon. His adventures quickly transcended the newspaper page, becoming a national craze that captured the imagination of Americans during the tumultuous 1930s. In an era of economic hardship and uncertainty, Buck Rogers offered a thrilling escape into a world of endless possibility and heroic triumph. Children and adults alike followed his exploits with bated breath, discussing the latest twists and turns. He became a symbol of American ingenuity and perseverance, proving that even in the darkest times, humanity could look forward to a future filled with adventure and discovery. The character's popularity soared further with the launch of the Buck Rogers and the 25th Century radio show in 1932. This marked another significant expansion of the franchise, bringing Buck's adventures directly into American homes via the airwaves. The radio series utilized dramatic sound effects and captivating voice acting to paint vivid pictures in the minds of listeners, allowing them to imagine the futuristic battles and cosmic voyages. It broadened Buck's reach, introducing his universe to those who might not have read the comic strip, and solidifying his place as a multimedia star long before the term was even invented. The success of Buck Rogers led to an unprecedented merchandising boom, cementing his iconic status. Chief among these was the legendary Buck Rogers ray gun, which became an absolute must-have for children across America. These futuristic toys, often made of pressed steel or tin, allowed kids to reenact Buck's adventures in their own backyards, sparking their imaginations about space travel and heroism. Beyond ray guns, there were rocket ships, spacesuits, board games, and even breakfast cereals. Buck Rogers wasn't just a story. He was a brand that permeated every aspect of childhood culture, a testament to his profound impact. In 1939, Buck Rogers made his way to the silver screen in a 12-chapter film serial starring Olympic swimmer turned actor Buster Crabbe. Crabbe, already famous for portraying Flash Gordon, brought a charismatic physicality to Buck, solidifying his visual identity for a generation. The serial, produced by Universal Pictures, was a thrilling weekly adventure, with Buck, Wilma Deering, and Dr. Huer battling Killer Kane and his alien forces across the solar system. Despite its modest budget, the serial was hugely popular, further cementing Buck Rogers as a definitive hero of space opera and a template for future sci-fi cinematic endeavors. The success of Buck Rogers didn't just entertain, it paved the way for an entire genre. His adventures directly inspired other iconic space opera heroes, most famously Flash Gordon, who debuted just a few years later. Buck Rogers established the tropes, the visuals, and the narrative framework for what a space adventure could be. Daring heroes, exotic aliens, advanced technology, and thrilling battles across the cosmos. Without Buck, the landscape of science fiction, from comics to movies, would undoubtedly look very different. He ignited the public's imagination and proved the viability of serialized space opera.
Even as the golden age of pulp heroes waned after World War II, Buck Rogers never truly faded away. He continued to appear in various comic book iterations, ensuring his adventures reached new generations of readers. Though the fervor of the 1930s might have softened, the core appeal of a brave man exploring and defending the future remained strong. These later comic runs often adapted to changing tastes, introducing new villains and technologies, but always retaining the spirit of adventure that defined the original. Buck Rogers was a character built to last, resilient through shifting cultural landscapes.
Buck Rogers experienced a massive resurgence in 1979 with the highly popular television series Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. Capitalizing on the post-Star Wars sci-fi craze, the show dramatically modernized the character and his universe. Starring Gil Gerard as Buck, Aaron Gray as Colonel Wilma Deering, and the iconic voice of Mel Blanc as Twiki, the robot sidekick, the series introduced Buck to an entirely new generation of fans. This version, while taking liberties with the original source material, embraced a more colorful and campy aesthetic, becoming a beloved part of late 70s and early 80s television culture.
Now, let's delve into the legal heart of our question, U.S. copyright law. For works published before 1978, the rules are distinctly different from those created today. The original U.S. Copyright Act of 1909 stipulated an initial copyright term of 28 years, which could be renewed for a second 28-year term, totaling 56 years. Crucially, if that second renewal was missed or not properly filed, the work would fall into the public domain after its initial 28-year period. This renewal requirement is key to understanding the public domain status of many classic works from the early 20th century, including Buck Rogers. Over the decades, U.S. copyright law underwent several significant changes. The 1976 Copyright Act, effective in 1978, dramatically altered term lengths, generally extending them. Later, the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act of 1998 further extended copyright terms for works that were still protected. For works published between 1923 and 1977, if their copyright was properly renewed for the second term, their total protection was extended to 95 years from the date of publication. This 95-year rule is paramount in determining when many classic characters and stories enter the public domain. Applying these laws, we can definitively state that Philip Francis Nowlan's original novella, Armageddon 2419 AD, published in August 1928, officially entered the public domain on January 1, 2024. This is a monumental moment for science fiction, or paying royalties to the Nowlan estate or the original publisher. Following closely behind, Philip Nowlan's second novella, The Air Lords of Han, published in March 1929, is scheduled to enter the public domain on January 1, 2025. This will complete the public domain release of Nowlan's foundational text. With both original novellas freely available, the literary cornerstone of the Buck Rogers universe will be entirely accessible for new interpretations and explorations. This ensures that the core narrative and characters from Nowlan's original vision can be rediscovered and reimagined by a new generation of writers, free from past copyright restrictions. It's truly a landmark moment for the character. The copyright status of the Buck Rogers in the 25th Century comic strip is a bit more nuanced. Each daily and Sunday strip was considered a separate copyrighted work, or covered under the syndicate's overarching copyright for that year. This means the comic strip enters the public domain on a rolling basis, year by year. The earliest strips, those published in 1929, will enter the public domain on January 1, 2025. Subsequent years of the strip will follow suit 95 years after their respective publication dates. So while the novellas are entirely free, the comic strip's entry into the public domain is a gradual process. It's crucial to understand the distinction between a character entering the public domain and specific iterations of that character. While the core concept of Buck Rogers, the name and the early visual designs from the 1928 novellas and the 1929 comic strips are now, or soon will be, public domain, later, more distinct versions remain protected. For instance, the specific visual appearance of Buck Rogers from the 1979 television series, or particular plot elements unique to later comics or adaptations, are still under copyright. This means creators can use the spirit of early Buck, but must be careful not to infringe on elements introduced in still protected works. The entry of Buck Rogers into the public domain unleashes a torrent of creative freedom. Anyone can now create new stories, comics, films, games, or artwork featuring the original Anthony Rogers from the novellas or the early comic strip iteration of Buck. This could lead to independent productions that hew closer to Nowlan's darker, more serious vision, or innovative adaptations that reimagine the character for a modern audience. Without the burden of licensing fees or restrictive creative control from copyright holders, creators are free to experiment, innovate, and tell the Buck Rogers stories they've always dreamed of. The gate to the 25th century has been thrown wide open. Imagine a gritty, dystopian Buck Rogers movie, independent fan comics that explore the deeper implications of his future world, or even video games that let players experience the fight against the Han firsthand. These are just a few of the possibilities now unlocked by the public domain status. This moment encourages a democratization of storytelling, allowing grassroots creators to contribute to the rich tapestry of the Buck Rogers legacy. We could see a multitude of interpretations, each offering a unique perspective on the classic hero, ensuring his relevance for generations to come. Buck Rogers stands as a timeless pioneer of space adventure. His journey from a pulp magazine story to a multimedia empire cemented his place in cultural history, inspiring countless other heroes and shaping the very genre of science fiction. The question of whether he's in the public domain now has a clear answer. Parts of him are, and more are joining soon. This isn't an end, it's a profound new beginning, an invitation for a fresh wave of creativity. Buck Rogers, the man who awoke in the future, will continue to explore new frontiers, not just in his stories, but in the creative realm itself. So as we look to the horizon, the adventures of Buck Rogers are far from over. Instead, they are poised to embark on their most exciting chapter yet, one written by countless new voices, freely inspired by the original legend. The public domain isn't just about old stories, it's about the eternal power of creation, ensuring that the legacy of a truly groundbreaking hero like Buck Rogers will continue to inspire, entertain, and explore the endless possibilities of the future.